And the meeting is now live.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let me please convene the November 10th meeting of the Economic Development Committee. Pleased to be joined by my colleague Joe Busciano and Monica. And Monica, there she is. Councilwoman Rodriguez, in person. Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Yes, Councilmember Price.
I'm here.
Councilmember Buscaino.
Here.
And Councilmember Rodriguez.
Here.
3 members and a quorum, Mr. Chair.
Great. So we're going to open up the floor to public comment. Mr. Clerk, would you please read the formalities?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Members of the public who would like to offer public comment on the items listed on the agenda should call 1-669-254-5252 and use meeting ID number 160-177-1578 and then press pound. Press pound again when prompted for a participant ID. When admitted into the meeting, press *9 to request to speak.
We'll take our first speaker, please.
We'll call in 9919. Please press *67 to unmute yourself. Caller ending in 9919. Press *67 to unmute yourself.
Hello?
Caller, what is your name and the items you'd like to speak on?
Yes, I would like to speak on item number 4, please.
Okay, and your name?
Brian Morrison.
You may start. You have a minute.
Hi, my name is Brian Morrison. I'm the treasurer for the Los Feliz Village Business Improvement District, and I wanted to say thanks to the Economic Development Committee for considering our 2020 documentation, and thank you to the clerk's office for helping us get it together. We appreciate your support and look forward to working with you in next year.
All right, thank you. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Next, please.
Mr. Chair, that concludes public comment.
Is there anyone else?
Remember, that concludes public comment.
Okay, we will close the public comment. Members, without objection, I'm going to propose we move items 4, 5, and 6 on consent. Any objections? No objections, that will be the order. What's our first item, Mr. Clerk?
Item number 1 is a report from the Chief Legislative Analyst dated October 29, 2020, relative to the Los Angeles Convention Center expansion project.
Okay, is someone from the CLA with us?
Yes, good afternoon, gentlemen. With the Chief Legislative Analyst, I don't know if Alex Whitehead is here with us as well. The ENA that is currently in place between the City of Los Angeles and AEG and Plenary Group to evaluate and determine the ability to develop a deal to expand the convention center will expire in January. One of the unfortunate impacts of COVID is that time continues, but the efforts on the convention center project negotiations have stalled because we've not been able to move forward on those as a result of COVID. Additional time is needed in order to continue those negotiations. So we bring forward to you a request to negotiate and execute an extension to the existing ENA. This will allow the city and AEG and Plenary to continue negotiations and hopefully come to a deal to expand and modernize the convention center and bring convention center into the 21st century. Thank you.
Proposing an extension of how long?
We recommend an extension of 1 year with 2 additional 6-month extensions if time is needed.
Okay. All right, thank you. Members, any comments?
Yes, if I may, Mr. Chair, just an observation in the report clearly indicates that in fiscal year 2019, 1920, that the convention center generated $436 million in total economic impact. As we all know, and we recognize the fact that our tourism industry represents 1 in 9 jobs in our city, in our region. Not the same, very similar to the Port of Los Angeles. I mean, I stand corrected. The report doesn't indicate that, but just an observation, as we're often told by the CLA's office, the significant contributions, economic contributions that our convention plays in our area, in our city.
That cannot be denied. Any other comments, Madam Rodriguez?
No, I just thank you, Mr. Chair and Mr. Buscaino, for your comments. I think, unfortunately, the economic impact that we're all experiencing as a result of COVID, the lack of our ability to hold large conventions is also a contributing factor to our local economic situation. And, we always want to remain mindful of the fact that the moment that we can actually restore programming opportunities at that facility, as well as bring it into the 21st century with this remarkable design and implementation, it really behooves us to not present ourselves or get in our own way with any other efforts that might deter that work from occurring very quickly. So I just want us to remain mindful of all of those efforts. And I want to thank Mr. Liu for all of his work in guiding this as well. And good to see you. And thank you all very much for these efforts.
Well, thank you. I want to thank you both for your comments, and I agree with both of you. We want to keep our options open and make sure we're utilizing our facilities to the best way possible. So without objection, I think we can approve the CLA report recommendations. I will accept a second.
I'll second that. I don't know if we need a roll call vote or not.
Oh, why don't we? Just for the record.
Yeah.
Mr. Clerk, why don't you line us up? Or vote?
Oh, Councilmember Price,
Aye.
Councilmember Buscaino,
Aye.
and Councilmember Rodriguez.
Hi.
3 votes and it passes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, Mr. Espinoza.
Yes, item number 2 is a report from the Economic and Workforce Development Department relative to renaming the Small Business Emergency Microloan Program to the Small Business Recovery Grant Program and related matters. Oh, and also, and I just want to let you know that this has been referred to the Ad Hoc Committee on COVID-19 Recovery and Neighborhood Investment and the Budget and Finance Committee.
Okay, excellent. Someone from EWDD with us?
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chair, council members. Daisy Hernandez with the Economic and Workforce Development Department. Good to see you. Hope
Good to
you're
see you,
doing
Daisy.
well.
Thank you for being with us today.
Yeah, no, thank you for having us with on the call. We also have Jackie Rodriguez, the Assistant Chief Grants Administrator. And before you, you have a report from EWDD requesting to amend the funding sources for the Small Business Emergency Loan Program to be funded using CARES dollars. In the same report, we're requesting to convert these loans that were awarded under the Emergency Loan Program into grants. And lastly, we're also requesting to rename the program as the Small Business Recovery Grant Program. Now, the city took swift action to set up an emergency loan program to help the struggling businesses that have been affected by COVID-19. As you know, there was a statewide mandate. There's still a statewide mandate for businesses to close or have restricted operations. The city set up this $11 million emergency loan fund. And today we have assisted 738 businesses throughout the city, totaling nearly $10 million in funding that we've put out in the business community. Now, EWDD continues to review and fund applications until funds are completely exhausted. At the time that the emergency loan program was established, there was no federal COVID-related funding available. However, the city recognized that small businesses were in great need for assistance to try to keep their doors open and maintain their employees. As a result, City Council approved the loan program, appropriated $10 million in general funds, $622,000 in former enterprise zone tax credit voucher program, and $420,000 in CDBG dollars to carry out the emergency loan program. Since then, the federal government has awarded coronavirus relief funds to the city to help cover expenses relating to COVID-19. So this report, we're requesting authority to amend the funding structure for the emergency loan program so we can use CARES dollars instead of the original funding sources that were approved. If City Council approves this recommendation, this will allow for the repayment of funds dispersed under the original funding structure. So we would be repaying $10 million back to the general fund and $622,000 back to the ECTC program. This will also allow for us to redirect the $420,000 in CDBG funding to back to non-emergency loans as they were originally allocated. EWDD is also recommending converting the emergency loans into grants. COVID-19 has created an unprecedented economic adverse impact on small businesses in the city. So many businesses that receive the loan are not in a position to start making payments or have this additional debt because they really haven't had the revenue to be able to afford this new debt. So converting the assistance into grants would be another way that the city can help these businesses recover from the current crisis in the hope that they remain open post-COVID. If council approves EWDD's recommendations to fund the emergency loan program using CARES and to convert the loans into grants, they were also requesting to change the name of the program to be renamed the Small Business Recovery Grant Program. That concludes my presentation. I'll be glad to respond to any questions you may have.
Well, thank you, Ms. Hernandez, for your report, and we appreciate the efforts of EWDD in administering this program. This is some exciting news, potentially exciting news for small businesses that receive the loan that have this converted into a grant. How and when will recipients be notified after the council takes action, and I'm hopeful that it will? How soon will we be getting the word out to recipients that their loan has been converted to a grant?
We will be notifying them immediately. We're already working with the city attorney's office to have the necessary documents ready to notify them immediately.
Is there any reason why someone would not want to receive the grant and wish to continue making payments or to begin making payments?
So it'll be a business decision to see the grant funding is taxable. So each business will have to make that business decision on whether they want to accept grant funding, remain with the loan, whatever to the needs of the business, I guess.
Okay. And then with the reallocation of funding, how much will be left? How many rounds will be left, I should say, in the program?
For the emergency loan?
For the emergency loan program, yes.
So we have funded almost $10 million already. So we do still
in 5 rounds, I think, correct? 5 rounds?
Actually, that is, the rounds are related to the regional fund and not the emergency loan program that's being implemented through the Economic and Workforce Development Department. So it's two different programs.
I understand. So what's going to be left? How many rounds could be left in this program?
So we would have, if approved and we get CARES money, we would have about $700,000 left to be issued as loans. It would be amending the CDBG funding from CDBG to CARES. That's $420,000, and about $300,000 that we have left over from ECTC money currently.
Okay. And individuals who receive loans would not be eligible for this next round of grants. Is that correct?
So well, what we're proposing is for all loans to become grants. And yes, if they've received grant funding, they would not be able to access other funding from other programs that the city has.
Okay, members, any other thoughts? Mrs. Rodriguez?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Daisy, thank you so much for your report. Colleagues, I introduced a motion last week based on the projected expenditures of all of the CARES money. Could you provide some insight as to how quickly, if additional monies became available, how quickly we might be able to expend it? As I recall, there was a report that we received previously that indicated the demand for these grants were upwards of $40 million, if I'm not mistaken, but we had allocated far below that. Could you refresh our memories, please?
Yes. So we received actually over 5,000 applications. We have approved over 1,000, have been able to fund 738, but there's still about 2,000 applications that we were not able to process because of the lack of funding. So if there's additional funding allocated to the program, we would definitely be able to assist some of the businesses that were not able to get funding through the first allocation.
And so in terms of total amount of expenditures, remind me, that was $10 million that was available, correct? And so given the 2,000 potential applicants that could be eligible, what do you project that the resources, in order to fulfill those, what would that potentially be in terms of a dollar amount? Is it 20 million? Is it more?
So, yes, actually, if we go with an average loan amount, it would take about 30 million to be able to fund everybody. Now, not everybody qualifies. The 2,000 applications that are pending still haven't been vetted because there was no funding. So we would still have to go through an eligibility verification to make sure they qualify. And so not everyone would be eligible for funding, is what I'm saying. But if we were to fund 2,000 more, it would require a lot more, approximately 30 million.
Okay. And in terms of the amount of time when you look at CARES money, and I want to thank the department for for kind of migrating this into a grant program and utilizing the CARES in this way so that we don't utilize some of these other precious resources that are not reimbursable or recoverable by any other means. I want to ascertain the department's ability, should we reprogram additional dollars. The CARES money is set to expire December 31st, if not extended. So what is the probability in terms of staffing for you all, given the 2,000 applicants that have been in the queue that still remain to be vetted? What is the likelihood of, if you did receive $30 million, the likelihood of having the ability to expend all that by the December 31st deadline?
And unfortunately, it's so late into the timeline for the program that I would say it would not be feasible for us to say we're gonna be able to fund 30 million by December 30th. We certainly would do our best to fund as much as we can, but it's really hard to commit, and I would have to definitely assess our capacity and discuss it with our general manager and assistant general manager to, of course, get their input and concurrence on what the department can do.
Yeah, I would actually, Mr. Chair, and I would like to actually request that the department review what their capacity would be, because I think we have a responsibility to act very swiftly, depending upon which the amount of dollars that have gone unencumbered for CARES money. I'm genuinely concerned about. I don't want us to be in a situation where dollars didn't get expended in the areas where we know we have tremendous need, and this is one that I know is very important to all of us. But I think it would be important for us to have the department prepared for, in the event that we have the ability to expend it rather quickly, that we find the means of actually being ready to do so. I know the ad hoc committee is going to be meeting, and again, my motion is due to be heard there, and I've asked the CAO for feedback on what dollars remain unexpended. But I think it's really important, given the impending timeline, that we're all very watchful of how we can reprogram these dollars and expend them with a great level of expediency, because we're basically 6 weeks out to that deadline. And you know, look, it's far too easy to expend these resources on other areas, but when you consider our budget, where we're at, I think, and the need, and the fact that we don't currently see an end in sight, the governor just announced, or actually all the COVID confirmed cases are revealing that it looks like we're going to be hunkered down a lot longer. We better do our damnedest to make sure that we are reappropriating these dollars in areas that are going to best support the residents and businesses in the city of Los Angeles. So, you know, Daisy, I'd like to, if you guys could go back and start looking at that, because to the extent that collectively this body can help advocate to reappropriate some of these dollars, I think it's really prudent for us to be being engaged in that conversation. Thank you.
For your comments, and I think it certainly reflects the feeling certainly that the chair has. I don't know if we need to have an amendment, but if you could take that back, Daisy, the sense of the committee would like to have some reassurance and follow up as to how we're going to be able to get these funds out, assuming we do approve them.
Okay, will do.
Yeah, Joe.
I'm good, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
That it? Okay. All right. So without further objections, we will approve EWDD's recommendations for reprogramming these funds and a new name for the program, Small Business Recovery Grant Program. And Ms. Hernandez, if you can just be mindful of the concerns raised about capacity and our desire to make sure that EWDD has the wherewithal to get the funds out to these businesses that are much in need at this time.
Absolutely.
Okay. Mr. Espinoza, would you call the roll on this item for us, please?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Councilmember Price,
Aye.
Councilmember Buscaino,
Yes.
and Councilmember Rodriguez.
Aye.
3 votes, and this item passes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Clerk, I think we are at item 3.
Yes, this is the last item. Item number 3 is a report from the Community Redevelopment Agency of Los Angeles Bond Oversight Committee relative to their excess bond proceeds quarterly project status report as of October 1st, 2020.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and council members. My name is Nathan Holmes. I'm with the Office of the City Administrator, and I'm presenting a report today. We hope will be the first in an ongoing series of quarterly reports that are going to give the committee an update on the status of all of the projects using former bond proceeds from the former Community Redevelopment Agency. And so I'll give you just a very brief summary. I'll be happy to take any questions you may have. In 2015, the city accepted approximately $94 million in bond proceeds and interest from the former redevelopment agency. And we had about 5 years to come up with projects and approve them in the city council and encumber them in contracts. That has been done. We encumbered 100% of the funds in projects. They are in 21 different redevelopment areas throughout the city. 78 total projects have been deposited with 12 different departments, and we are now in an implementation stage. And so this is the first of an ongoing quarterly report that will give an update on where each project is. And so I know many projects are in different council offices throughout the city. And so this will give you an idea of where we are in spending the funds overall, as well as where we are spending individual projects. And so just a couple highlights. We've spent about 31% of the funds.
District improvements in our district, Normandy?
Yes, there's a sidewalk project in your district, yes.
How about my district, Nate? Just kidding.
We're gonna get some money to Warner Grant.
Thank you, Nate. Tell them where you got your start. Tell them where you got your start.
I got my start in CD 15.
Thank you for the record. Thank you. Love you.
So we do have the bulk of the money still to spend. All right, that's because some of these projects, they have CEQA, they have environmental and different project development items that are going to take a few years. But where we are right now is we have 21 projects completed, about 27% overall. 28 are in implementation, and then 29 are in the planning and design stages. And so I think I'll leave it at that kind of high level right now. We do hope to spend as much of these funds as we can in the next couple of years, because we're very aware that as time goes on, costs increase, and so we want to get the most for our money by spending them quickly. And we also know that the city has some staffing issues, due to the larger economic situation, and so we want to be very aware just so that projects don't lag due to any sort of staffing shortfalls. And so this report will be a good mechanism for us to watch these projects and make sure we catch any projects that are falling behind. And so if you want to look at the last few pages of the report, you'll see that we have right now we're just marking the completed projects in green. At some point we will be potentially putting some yellow and red to make sure that we're looking at projects that may be experiencing difficulties, and so city staff can kind of help those projects with whatever may be ailing them. And so with that, I will conclude my remarks, and if there are any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Thank you, Nathan. I think this is a great start. It's very helpful, very informative. I think it'd be even more informative if we had it broken down by council districts, just to have a feel for those projects in those areas. But otherwise, I look forward to the next quarterly report. Members, any comments? Mr. Joe?
No, Mr. Chair, I agree with you. It'd be good to see a breakdown. I know you had questions on what's happening in your district. I'm sure Monica does as well, and other members. So it'd be really helpful. And I know they can easily pull that information.
Right.
Sure, we can look at doing that. And just until the next report, if you look at the different redevelopment areas in the second column there, it does say, the council district there. So, but we'll look at doing a special version.
Okay. For those that can read, that's great. We appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. All right. Monica, any comments?
You have to work on that, okay, Joe?
I'm on it.
Okay, members, any other comments? Seeing none, we will note and file the report, and look forward to the next quarterly report, Nathan. Thank you.
Thanks, Nate. Good work.
Job well done. Okay, Mr. City Clerk, what other matters are before us at this time?
All the matters have been considered.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
See you.